Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
All right, this is the last time we smile. So we are gonna be reviewing the episode for Dark Side of the Ring. This was covering Brian Pillman, and it was a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah, it was.
Um, so uh, we can kind of start from the beginning. What did you think? Like how they kind of went into it?
It was like for me, I felt like in the first 5 minutes we got Stone Cold kind of mentioning like how it was, I guess, a big part of his career being, part of the Hollywood Blondes. And then we got about his first wife, which that whole story like had me like all upset. I was ready to fight somebody. So like, and not to like, downplay it, but I was mad for her. I honestly felt like she got a really like shitty stick. And, like, her children seemed like they really wanted to like, my mom, but it's like a lot of bad stuff happened. And I really felt like I was like, you know what, Brian Pillman, ew. Ew, like
Yes.
I wanted to feel bad at that part, but I'm like, dude, so that's what we doing today. This you just like F the woman who's been like riding with you through all of this and you cheated all these times. So I felt like because they put that right there, like, oh, he had this woman and the sister, her name is Linda, right?
Yes. Linda.
Yeah, she was saying how even she understood that woman went through a lot, and Brian Pillman really didn't give a shit, and that bothered me because I was like, how many women we know that do this and like stay around with men who do shady stuff, and then we just gotta be like, okay, yes, and that bothered me. I was kind of mad at him for a bit. It took me a minute to feel a little better, like, but
Yeah. No,
I liked it that it was like both dynamics. Like we got Stone Cold right away, which I was happy with, just to explain like their relationship. But then we also got like, oh, here's a little bit of Brian Pillman right there. Like, oh well, he wasn't great, but here we are.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I also like that they talked about his issue with his the trachea and how he had the things that were growing on there, and that's
yeah,
why his voice was raspy. I like that they touched on that because that's it's crazy to think that someone who had all those issues with his voice was so good with his voice, and
yeah.
talking, and also the stuff. Yeah, definitely the womanizing stuff. Definitely, as a woman, it didn't sit right with me, but I appreciated them being so, open with everything and kind of putting everything on the table. I also did like the stuff with Stone Cold as well. It was nice to see. It seemed like he really did value him. So
Yeah.
that I like that a lot, especially the chain that he kept. I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah, I didn't even like the fact that I can always think of Stone Cold with the shorts and the vest with the chain. So I'm like, it was pretty cool that was the reason behind it all. Because I was like, this is like the one like swag stuff. Stone Cold's supposed to be like that redneck guy who just drinks all the beers and kick a bunch of ass and everything. So the fact that he had that one piece, that one gold chain, that everybody know people had the gold chains in the '90s.
Yeah,
That one gold chain in the '90s. So I thought it was a nice thing that he kept it, and it was because of Brian Pillman. Like that's the reason. I didn't know that. So that was pretty cool to learn, like that little fun fact. So that was nice.
definitely. That was the first thing I said. I said, "Hey, I recognize that chain." The minute you said it, I was like, that's beautiful." It's kind of like, I guess, like his small way of maybe keeping him,
Yeah.
alive in his own part. But it was definitely a lot. But and I also I liked how they kind of touched on how he was kind of like a rough around the edges type of guy, getting into bar fights and whatnot. I thought the one where he was hanging the guy over the banister in the bar, I was like, oh wow, okay, this guy's no joke. Okay.
He was like Stone Cold before Stone Cold. Like he actually kind of was like living the life. Like, Stone Cold had that whole like he didn't really get the gimmick yet before he got like the badass rattlesnake and everything. But I was like, no, Brian Pillman was dead ass like he was legit like ready to fight somebody in the bar. Like he was like super like just I guess I want to say authentic because I feel like even a lot of the things a lot of the people during the episodes was saying that they could never tell if he was just doing something to get a rise out of people. Like, oh, he was doing this. Like, to me, that's insane that they like, did this really happen to you? Because you be doing the most. And I'm like, well, damn, like, is
Right.
it
It's
not,
like,
like, is
okay,
he that
wow. So you
good? Like,
really lived that. Okay, cool.
like, is it that good that y'all really question everything that happened to him? Like, is this real, or you're just doing this to kind of go with your gimmick? So I guess that speaks to Brian in that regard. Like, I want to say what the fourth wall, like, he did it a little bit, like he put that a little bit lowering the fourth wall to let people know, like, this is me, but this is gimmick, but this is also me. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. No. Oh, yes. That's also another thing. Thank you for bringing that up,
Yes.
Derek. I liked how Stone Cold was kind of saying, I really didn't want to at first. He didn't want to be in the Hollywood Blondes group, and he was like, I want to do my own thing. And I noticed that they do that a lot, where it's like they don't have anything for you. You guys, let's just throw you guys together. But I
Yeah.
mean, I liked, I feel like they had something. They had, a good look, obviously, and they had a lot of character. So it kind of sucks that they never really got to go anywhere because of, the ratings thing. I hate when things like that get in the way because I feel like it shouldn't, talent should always be the very, very top of what gets you there. Not like, I'm just not I don't dwell on the rating stuff. So, yeah.
No, I hear you. Like, rating is important to an extent, and I say that because if you want like the channel you're on to like keep you around a little longer, then ratings matter. But sometimes, wrestling fans are weird. Like, they were weird back then. They're even more weird and annoying now. So it's
Yeah.
like sometimes you got to give them a chance to see if they will. Like, some people get lucky enough to get the people behind them right away, but sometimes you got to let it play out a bit and see what can go into it. And I feel like that's like they didn't give them the opportunity to just let's see what they can do because people don't like them. So I feel like especially like currently when you have wrestlers I really don't want to see on my TV screen, but they're there. And I'm like, y'all not gonna tell me anything about no ratings. I want to hear that.
Right. It's like
Nobody,
so,
like, it is clear nobody wants to see these guys and you guys keep putting them on for whatever reason. So
right.
it's like that. I guess WWE, or
It's like
WCW at the
pick and
time.
choosing. Yeah, WCW. I feel like WCW and WWF at the time were so like ratings obsessed. I mean, now I guess, but definitely back then way more. But I mean, I guess in a way it worked out in the end. It just, it kind of helped, Brian get on his role of, starting with the character that he wanted to, kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't understand that. It's like one bad main event and it's just done. You're never gonna give him a chance. I just felt like that was ridiculous. But things happen for a reason.
Yeah, because we wouldn't have gotten like, we wouldn't eventually get, the Stone Cold Steve Austin everybody loves so much. So like it sucks, but it's also like I'm wondering if that he pulled some of Brian Pillman to kind of refine his rattlesnake gimmick. Because, knowing that Brian legit was like ready to do all types of shit, like even outside the ring. Like, this is just what he was, like the loose cannon and all. Like, I feel like maybe Stone Cold took a little bit of that when he was still like, of course, you got the whole like you're beating up your boss thing and you're like a redneck. And of course, those things people can relate to, or you're like, that person's like, F all of y'all, and I'm just going to throw back some beers. But
Yeah.
I feel like a part of him definitely took some of that into his gimmick, like doing the whole Stone Cold Steve Austin, because Brian Pillman was like, that's what he was. So I thought that was pretty like nice. I feel like if anything, I don't want to say they were best friends. I'm going to call them that, but
Yeah.
it does seem like they were close enough that they were able to kind of hopefully feed off each other. So
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I also like the little story he said about when they were driving the car and he was looking through the dictionary, trying to like kind of improve his, geez, the word is like escaping me, but improve his vocabulary
yeah.
for his promos. I think that's awesome. That's one of the things I really respect and love about some wrestlers. That they take that extra mile, to like make sure that they put out the absolute best product.
And I actually related to that because that's how I learned to build my vocabulary. Like in elementary school, my teacher, my mom was just like, well, here's the word. And I'm like, all right, I guess. And then I looked the word and spelling and the definition. And then that's how I was able to say, like, he was like, how do you know that? And I'm like, reading. Like, so when I heard that he did that, I was like, thank you. Let people know you can like open up a book and learn something. Like, thank you. So I was actually that I related to, because I was like, I definitely did that growing up. Like, just to build your vocabulary. Like, it's a little easier now because Google's around, but like back then, you're just like, how else would you learn your vocabulary if you're like not around a lot of people who know other things? Sometimes you have to step in broadening outside of your circle. So I definitely did appreciate that. I related to that so much, because I was like, yes, I am not the only crazy person who's to do this. We're just
Exactly.
find some random words and be like, okay, let me learn something new, and it's
Exactly.
an extra word.
Because it's
And then
basically
I like that they showed the promo too, when you saw he was using those words, and it was just like that 3 sentences. I was like, all right, Brian. I'm like, okay.
Right. I was like,
We're gonna put all the words in this one promo. Okay.
Exactly. I love that. It's cool. It's awesome. I just think that's great. You never know everything. So you can always keep learning. You can always keep taking things in. So I love that as well. But then we get the whole him rolling into his character, and then he's having the issues with Bischoff. I think, well, I don't think it was an issue. Well, if you ask Bischoff, he says that he was totally in the know the whole time, as I always love to say. There's no one to dispute it, I guess. So
Right.
but he basically I like that he kind of was like, he knew that he was worth more, so he kind of went on this whole thing to like kind of build his character and go to kind of get WWF's attention. WWF at the time, yeah. I like the story that Jim Ross told about when they were in Vegas and he got that picture with Vince and kind of was acting unhinged. I think that's awesome. You have to have a lot of confidence to just walk up to Vince and just act crazy and get a photo and all that stuff. Like that's I thought that was cool.
I also think it was part of him like marketing himself. It's like, oh, I kind of want to see what I can go for my career. And like I tell people this all the time, like a lot of like they mentioned a lot like Brian Pillman would do certain things to kind of negotiate more money. And I'm like, honestly, that's a smart thing to do. And my reasoning is because let's look at what happened to a lot of these wrestlers when they leave wrestling. If they're not like depressed or alcoholics or something happening because they cannot wrestle anymore. So like if this guy was smart enough to like do things to make sure he was set, I appreciated that, because it's like it's not just like wrestlers, like even some other athletes, they're like so involved in this sport and trying to do the thing that they love so much that when it's gone, it's like, well, what do they do with themselves? And then sometimes the money that they do have is gone. So it's like I appreciated that he did that. I was like, that's smart. Like, of course, if you're confident enough to go to Vince McMahon and do it with no problem, but that was also very smart on his behalf. I'm like, he was always making sure his money was good, like his pockets was good, and I appreciated that, because I'm like, I don't think enough people do like are confident enough in themselves where they can like, no, this is what I'm worth, and let me kind of show you why I'm worth this, and then they get it without just kind of accepting like, okay, this is what it is. So I appreciated that he was like that. Like I actually really dig that, because it's like we know how it is for wrestlers when they can't wrestle. How some, unfortunately, Dark Side of the Ring is literally about wrestlers who are like get depressed and stuff about things going on in their lives if it's not like super tragic or anything. So
Right.
it was cool to hear that.
Right. It's just basically the old saying, you got to bet on yourself, and he did, and it worked out. Unfortunately, the events that took place right when he finally got what he wanted,
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, hampered it a little bit, or kind of slowed it down. He got into the car accident. That was, very like, wow. Just seeing like how intense and how in depth like they went with showing what happened to him is, whew, wow. That's
Yeah, no. I'm always funny about car accidents. That's honestly the reason why I don't drive. I feel like I don't trust the other drivers on the road, not even myself. I don't trust other drivers. So the fact that I think one of the lines was like they were saying his foot was hanging off of the gurney. So like that, like I'm vivid, like about being a writer and all, like it's for me. So I'm picturing like his foot was. I'm like, oh, his foot was hanging, like just there, and I'm like, and I hate it that I could picture that so well, because as a writer you have to be able to describe things like that. And
yeah.
I was like, how bad that had to be. That like it's so messed up that your body parts just like hanging over like a piece of bread or like a piece of meat you're cutting at the deli or something. It was just like that.
Right.
Like I was like, I kind of understood why he was a little depressed, because like, damn, like I'm sure
Yeah,
that had to be hard for him.
absolutely. And I do agree, Ron, with what you said. I don't think that, Bischoff knew, like, as he wanted to say, I knew everything. I think that Brian definitely was, 3 steps ahead, as you said. He definitely knew what he was doing. He was playing everyone, and he got what he wanted.
Eric Bischoff was trying to sound cool when they show him coming his little motorcycle, like he was about to be extra GQ. Like, bro, you didn't know. Like, it's fine to admit you did not know. And Brian just pulled the wool over all your eyes, and that's fine. Like, admit that. You don't have to act like I was like, no, you didn't, Eric. Let's not lie. Like, there's no way you knew he was doing this. Because even like you mentioned about the accident, even with the accident, he was able to get Vince McMahon to do a 3-year contract. And why it unfortunately didn't work because he passed soon after. The point was he was able to play this off so well. Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, even though he knew it was a big deal and that he would never be the same again. He got guaranteed 3-year money. Like I said, it's smart. Like, you gotta always make sure you're covered in the situation when it's like you can be gone tomorrow, or they can just fire you, and then you got the future endeavor message, and you have no money or anything. It's like, so he was smart.
Right. And I also like how they added that he specifically wasn't talking to Dave Meltzer for most of that time because he knows that Dave Meltzer's a chatty patty. So he just didn't talk to him until he got everything all together, because he just knew that Dave Meltzer cannot keep anything to himself, which is still true.
I was just about to say, like, look at Dave now.
Right.
Look at Dave now. Like, I wouldn't have said that to Dave either. Because
seriously, and I agree, Derek. I agree. It was very cool that they added in Kim Woods as well. I liked his input, in there. It was, like an outside thing. I liked his input.
I actually felt Kim was a real one. He literally was he was looking out for Brian. Like, the advice he was giving him, and I was like, yeah, very few people realistically are this, like, what's the word I want to use? Like, just like giving of their services without like expecting much, like expecting something in return. Unfortunately, that's just the way people in the business are. So I appreciated that he definitely, like, he was looking out for him, and it was nice to hear, like, you still, even after he was wrestling, you still was like giving him tips and stuff, just to kind of help him out. I guess he figured he was good enough, why not? But I thought he was definitely a real one. Like, he was one of the few people in the show that I was like, yo, you really like ruled for Brian and Linda, because Linda, she ruled.
Queen, that's a queen right there. And yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's hard to find people who just want to help you, and there's no type of ulterior motive behind, what they're providing you. It's just genuine.
What were your thoughts about, like, I know we kind of touched on the ex-girlfriend. Let me make sure I got her name correct.
I think it's Rochelle. Was it?
Yes, it is Rochelle.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because like I said earlier, it bothered me only because she legit was like, she had kids, but he also had a kid that he said he didn't know was his, and then she was taking care of that kid too. So I'm like, you got girl, like, she taking care of all these kids, and you having like all types of fun, and you having a whole life in Atlanta, like it's, and I'm like, and then the fact that you were still in friends of yours, like, oh, I'm gonna marry this one, and it's the one in Atlanta, and I'm like, so we're gonna just ignore, we're gonna ignore the fact that you got the other lady though here with like the children. Like, and the fact that she got, because I think Linda was the one who explained that she got like I guess robbed and like slashed in the face, and like that would scare, like, I wouldn't even I wouldn't have wanted Brian to travel like that knowing this happened to me in a house we were supposed to be okay in. That would like have me like super stressed out and like anxious like all the time, and I'm like, so she's been through all this while holding your kids. And yes, I know some of them were hers, but you know what I mean? Like, she's holding your kids and you just, okay, this is what we doing. And that really just irritated me, because I'm just like, poor Rochelle. And it made me look at his wife a whole. I was like, oh, look at Karma. Look at Karma work. Look at you right now.
That's literally what I was saying throughout the entire one. I was like, look at what happens. You can never think that karmic, that stuff's not gonna come back around. It always is. And it did. For her. Not for him. That's her.
He definitely did. Like I said, smart. And he definitely was like looking out for Brian through all of that. Kim. Definitely looking out. But What are your thoughts as far as like the children? I thought they were so well spoken and like
Oh,
so just like honest about everything.
I loved it. I felt the most I felt really bad for just them telling their stories, and it's just no child should ever have to go through that many traumatic things in one lifetime. I feel like it was like thing after thing after thing after thing. I'm just thankful that they've seem like they've gotten to a place where they're able to move forward and live their lives. I'm just happy that they're in a good place, because that's just so much to go through in one lifetime.
Yeah, I actually was surprised. Melanie, that's her name, right? The wife.
Yeah.
She was so like I was surprised of how forthcoming she was, like just saying stuff, and like she said she regretted like what she did to Rochelle. I'm like, well, of course you might do now. Like, look how much time has passed, and you
Right.
lost your kid. You lost your own kids. Like they didn't even want to have that to really do with you either,
Right.
because of some of the stuff that she was engaging in or allowing to happen. So I feel like, well, of course, maybe now you want to be honest, but you probably should have thought about that when I got like petty wife, like when that's she they was explaining what was happening. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, you was the wife that was probably mad he had the baby mother, and here we are. Like, let's be petty, and you're going out of your way to like. I feel like if there's no actual abuse happening, you stay out of that type of situation, wife
Right.
or not, and let the parents handle that, because it always come with like all this other drama, all these other problems. So I really dislike that she was like going out of her way to like hurt Rochelle. And then even when I think they said she like wanted to see the child, and yeah, I get there was like an order for her not to show up, and that I understand, but like the fact that she thought she was gonna kidnap, I'm like, kidnap on the sidewalk, like I
Right.
just need her to understand, like explain to me how she kidnapped it. She didn't go to the car, she didn't walk away,
Right.
she just like, so I'm like, the take, to all of that to the point where it was suicide, that had to hurt the children.
Right.
And then to move in with the wife, and why, they was, I think they was mentioning like the Christmas cards. I'm like, well, pictures can be very misleading, and pictures might seem like everything is fine, everything is perfect, but whatever was
Right.
going on with them, I was like, let's never gonna think back to Rochelle, poor Rochelle, home alone with children, and you guys are having a good old time, and now look, like
Exactly.
look what's happening to the marriage that the wife you wanted so bad. And it's like everything is not always whatever glitters ain't always gold, the grass ain't greener, all those sayings that everything ain't as good as it always looks, and
Right.
that's what was doing it. And yes, Derek, I mean, I get it, but I don't like that excuse.
Right. You know.
Like just like let me get famous and like get an awesome book deal, and let me just have like 50 boyfriends. Like, one, that's too much work. I don't got time for 50
Right.
people. Like, that's too much negativity for me. Like, the personalities I'm gonna deal with, no. But I feel like that's an excuse. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a wrestler, but you don't gotta be a creep about it. Can one of you guys be decent and not cheat on your wives?
Right. I feel like
One
stop
person
make it
be not
more
be a good
difficult.
person.
I feel like it's much more simple than they make it, but who knows? I guess. And I just feel like you should never try and keep someone from the child. You can have your issues, but if there's no physical violence happening to the child, why would you try and keep them from the child? I don't get that. I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like she was physically abusing them, or she was like mentally abusing them. Little kids, you don't want them growing up being like really messed up. Even though I feel like with
Right.
the life that they wound up being stuck in because of like her, and then what Melanie was doing, and then Brian passing away, it's like you guys kind of had it rough. So maybe if you would have let Rochelle get them, that maybe that would have been one incident that they didn't have to deal with. Like that's what I was like. Yeah, she was like depressed, but look at what she was dealing with. Like,
Yes.
let's not act like mental health. I feel like there's always, I guess back then there might have been a stigma to it, but most people probably have some kind of mental illness. So let's be real. Life
Yeah.
is stressful. Life is stressful. Everything
Exactly.
ain't working the way you need. Like you got something. If it's not anxiety, depression, or whatever the case may be, there are so many different types of mental disorders that people always think it's like you're like a psychopath mental disorder, and it's not necessarily that. So
Right.
I feel like if y'all would have just allowed her to get therapy and like help her out, that it wouldn't have resorted that she felt like, oh, I'm not going to see my kids again.
Right.
Let me kill myself. Like, I
And
just
that
felt like
nasty
that
phone
level
call from Melanie. Don't forget that one. That was so.
was like the icing on the cake for her. And that was like, that's petty. That's what petty women do. It's like, oh, I got the guy, I got the kids now. And then look, and like Derek said, yeah, she was pretty and she looks like every typical person who clearly was on drugs before. Like
Right.
the lisp, teeth was missing. You see the marks on her arms, like the track marks on her arm. It was insane to
Right.
me. And I'm like, this is what happens when you don't be a good person. Like the universe, it comes back. And it definitely came back for her. Like I couldn't, like, you want to feel sympathetic, and I try to be like sympathetic to people, but I don't like when people are intentionally cruel. And I
Yeah.
felt like she was intentionally cruel.
Yeah.
And I feel like she made Brian's situation with Rochelle a lot worse because she was like instigating it and antagonizing. So
Right. One thing I will say I appreciate is she was aware of the person she was. Like, I think I would have been jumping from wall to wall if she came on there like, I don't think I did anything wrong. But the fact that she knew that she was dead wrong for most of what she did, it's like, okay, there's something redeemable there. Because if she had come there like, I just don't know what happened, I would have jumped out the window. Like, what are you talking about, Louis? Like, it's ridiculous.
yeah, she was honest. I was actually like, sometimes you watch the episodes and then you're like, y'all, some of y'all lying. Like, we not. I
Right.
literally just had to watch for the site I write for, and I had to watch a few Dark Side, like the older episodes, to kind of refresh my memory a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, some of the people, I'm like, y'all be straight lying, and you can tell they lying, and then y'all be trying to switch up, like, oh, that's not what I meant, but that's what you said, dude, and the straight lying, and I'm just like, can we not, like, this is
Right.
an opportunity. This is a documentary. This is not reality TV, but you can kind of
Right.
embellish it. Like, you might embellish how extra your character is, something, but like, this is a documentary. Be honest. Like, if this is what you did, well, say that, man up, acknowledge that, and then move on. Or whoever needs an apology, whatever you need to do that. But like, it's just like, she was very honest, and I did appreciate that, because I'm like, most of you guys will get right up on here and start lying. Like, just
Lion.
blatantly lying, and then you got people contradicting the points, and they be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, don't do that.
Right. It's like, just stop. But I think the next thing after that, once he got over that, was, he started his journey with WWF, and he was still healing from his injury, I believe. So he had the crutches, right? So I think he was kind of doing, other things like color commentating and doing backstage vignettes and whatnot. I like that. I think that's always a great thing when a wrestler physically can't do something. Find something else for them, especially someone like Brian Pillman, who's so like gifted on the mic. I feel like, why not? Let him talk.
Yeah. He definitely was gifted, and I personally don't like claiming everybody in the microphone, because I don't think everybody is good on the mic. Personally, I'll be like, I guess. I'm like quick to be like, oh, this is what okay, this is what you given, I guess. He, on the other hand, definitely, and even when the situation where Stone Cold kind of put his leg in the chair, and like, the fact that they were still trying to help each other in that moment, uh and still, make it work. Like, I was like, well, if he was lying, like, if he was lying, he don't look like he's lying about this. Like, this look like it hurts, and
Right.
it's not like over. Like, you're like, all right, guys, like, you expect me to believe that you really hurt from this. Like, stop. Like, come on, let's not do that, or do what other shows did recently. I won't bring up, but
Right.
with
Right.
shenanigans that is completely unbelievable. Um, it looked legit, you know. It looked like he was like, and I like that they still, even then, was trying to help each other. What were your thoughts about after he got the car accident, and then they did that whole, like, Brian Pillman was at home with the gun, and Stone Cold came in there to kick some ass. I heard like mixed opinions on that from people on the show. So what were like your thoughts about that?
Well, for me, I mean, I like edgy stuff. And that is like as edgy as you can get. I specifically loved that. I thought it was very it pushed, and I feel like that's what, you know things should be. Like, push. You want to get a reaction out of people, and I feel like they did. I thought it was a great segment. Obviously, a lot of people were very outraged by it, but I thought that was, and it's such a iconic moment to this day in wrestling in general. So
See, my thing is like I definitely understand you having the gun there, and or I guess like it could be a bit much. I don't think they were gonna really shoot anybody, but like the fact that being that he was a loose cannon and he seemed really agitated, sitting like he's stuck on the couch, he can't do anything, and then the guy just comes to his home. And like the only person that's okay with coming home is like when Randy used to beat up John Cena's dad, and I'm like, for the life of me, even though I know that wasn't John's real dad, I always found it amusing because I'm just like.
right.
You're gonna act like this is not funny that Randy Orton felt bold enough to come to somebody's house to beat up somebody's parent. So to me, I was like, how do y'all not find this funny? Like to me, it was funny. So the fact that he came there and Brian Pillman looked like he was really ready to snap, though you knew he couldn't really do anything because of the accident and everything. I was like, okay, I get it, but it's like this look legit. Like he again, you guys are the guys who say he's always with the fourth wall, he's breaking the fourth wall, and he's like, you can never tell where he's gonna go next with this. I felt like with that particular gimmick, it made sense to me,
Right.
at least.
It's like you can't say you like someone who's like you never know what you're gonna get, and then when they give you something that you didn't know you was gonna get, now it's like, oh, it's just you can't. You can't pick and choosing with what.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know he apologized for it. It's just like I felt like in this particular scenario, you had a man who's already really agitated, and if he's considered a loose cannon, well, what do loose cannons do? Like they're really unpredictable. So for me, it worked. And then to have Melanie in the background screaming like she was legit terrified.
Bloody
Like
murder.
they had that whole Miz scenario when it came into the Miz's house and they was like, oh, where's the baby? And why I was like, I mean, I guess I wasn't like, oh, something wrong with the baby because I didn't get the vibe that it felt legit. Like I'm like, he not taking like nobody taking the baby. Like the way that and I felt and it felt like in this scenario. And maybe because it's a little hard to pull those things off now because social media exists, so it's kind of hard to keep storylines in place when like everybody's on social media like, oh, I hate you on the show, but like we're drinking a beer like tomorrow at the house. So it's like, oh, I mean, but I just said yesterday. So I get that kayfabe is harder to keep alive with social media, and then all these wrestling sites wanted to be the first to break all these storylines and rumors and everything. But like at least with that, it was like, no, he legit looked like he was angry and wanted to do something, and Stone Cold was like, not F all that. And Melanie screaming gave it the vibe like, okay, well, this could have been like a really crazy thing. So that I get him apologizing for it. It's just like I felt like for the gimmicks that they had and the time it worked, like in that regards. We're not gonna add like Mr. Man hasn't done questionable things in the past because he has,
Definitely can't. We definitely can't, deny that. Vince has done some very questionable things, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it got the reaction that they wanted. And so that was a success at the end of the day.
See, I get Triple H. No, it just felt it was more fun to see John Cena's dad get beat up. I don't know why. I know that sounds really bad to say, but every time I ever see that clip with him just beating up John Cena's, dad, I'm like the fact that it just looks so like kind of ridiculous, but it's also really funny that he's just beating his dad up for no reason. Like the dad didn't do anything. His dad just being John Cena's dad, and that's why I thought it was funny because I was like, Randy Orton is just with shenanigans. That's why I found it funny. Like Triple H like had his moments, but Randy Orton to me is like one of the ultimate heels because he really don't care. And like he's an equal opportunity heel, which I appreciate. Like if you go beat up this person, you beat up everybody. So I personally, and that's the reason why it worked so well for me with Randy Orton.
Right. And I feel like I mean, they did the best they could, but at the end of the day, I feel like his body had just went through so much. I mean, I'm still just replaying, thinking about, the thing you said about, his ankle, how it was hanging off of the table. And then to see him doing the whole chair thing, I would never have agreed to it. Never. Like I don't know.
I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing because I always joke and tell people I was like wrestlers who take bumps, not me, because I don't want to fight for real. So I'm like, oh, so you try to fight, like you want to take this to the hallway. That's the way I will take that. So I'm like, no, I couldn't do bumps and like, oh, let me sell this move for you, and then it looks like it, like, no, because now I'm gonna be ready to really fight you, and we don't need those kind of problems. Like, I'm gonna be ready, like, nah, this is not storyline my
Right.
ass. Now you want to fight, you want to fight. Like, that's why I'm like, anybody who could take a bump in general always has props to me, because I cannot. I know me enough to know that I'll be upset. So the
Right.
fact that he still, like I said, pulled that off, and then the thing is, people were still questioning how, like, oh, is this like real? Or is this just storyline? Like, how good can you be that you're even fooling like Jim Cornette? Which was like to me when he was saying, when he passed away, he was like, "Well, did he?" I was like, "Like, you think he would go to? I
Right.
get extreme. You think he would go to that level of extreme for
That
a
just shows you
storyline?
how
Like
much
that's
he really. That just shows
he
you how
like
good he
die
was.
to do a
That's what it
storyline.
is.
I'm like, that's a bit like I get him being like intense, but that's a little too intense. Like I don't think anybody will fake a death storyline. That seems like
Right.
he had to keep checking and asking, like, "Are you sure?" Like that's insane to me. I was like,
That's
really, Tim?
Listen,
Really,
that's
he
just
lied?
a testament to Brian Pillman and how good he was at what he did. That's just a testament to him. You know, he made you truthfully believe. It's like, what would this man do? Nothing was off the table.
And I like that they kept mentioning the fact that, like, because he always was like kind of putting a bit, pushing it to reality and stuff, that's why people didn't believe it. But I'm like, even when it was like his friends wasn't sure, I'm like, all right, you guys are his homies. You tell them you don't know your friend well enough to
Yeah.
know like this is probably real or this is probably not. Like even with the car accident, y'all like y'all thought he faked the car accident. It was insane that
Oh,
like
when they
man
thought he
has
was gonna
this like
come in as evil Shawn Michaels, I was like,
and listen,
what
I
is
love me
Shawn?
some Shawn Michaels. Like he's the reason I became a wrestling fan. Shawn Michaels.
Right.
But
Yes.
it's not that deep. It's like, oh, I gotta be so well. Let me go get Shawn Michaels face. Like that's not gonna give you Shawn Michaels like style or whatever. Like Shawn Michaels
Right.
had this whole thing happening that worked for him. You changing your face to his. I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, so of all the rumors, the rumor is he wants to look like Shawn Michaels, get some plastic surgery. And then you guys, I'm like, I feel like that little white lie of like, I'm like trying to get more money, I'm trying to negotiate a better deal. A car accident. I was like, yo, dude had his whole like, he had like which call it's in his leg, like
Yeah. The bolts,
that's
the
a
steel
bit much
bolts.
to lie for. I mean, the fact that you guys thought that is like, well, damn, nobody trusts him. Like, none of
Right.
you homies, his friends, was like, nah, this might be legit. And they always question, like, is it? Like, did he fake a car accident? I'm like, that's extreme level of faking. Like, the
Right.
amount of faking, that's a little extreme. Like, come on. Like, you can't be that involved in your storyline. Let me
Right.
fake a car accident, let me fake a death. Like, that's, come on.
It's a little intense here. Let's calm down a little bit. You know, let's chill out. And I want to backtrack a little bit, just talking about him kind of blurring the lines and like really taking it to the next level. The thing that he did in WCW with I think it was Bobby Heenan, with the
Yes.
whole how he like tried to grab on him and he ended up dropping the F-bomb because he got legit angry. I love that. I think that's awesome because he got the reaction he was looking for. Like it's that man, he was great.
It just sucks that they only saw him as like a mid Carter. And I get like everybody can't be the main guy. Everybody's not gonna hit the top spot. But I'm like, if you can, sometimes the like they go like WWE is good for going for a look. Like we all know this. Like they have certain looks that they feel are championship material, which is why I absolutely love Roman Reigns because that man's amazing and all.
Right.
I get with the regards to like, well, he has the look. He has that look. Like now you can see him as a champion. Even when they were like with the Shield, and even though Seth became champion, and all, I did always get like, okay, but Roman's the one. Like they're gonna extra push him. And yes, I get he's related to The Rock and everything. But I was like, no, he has the look. Like the look that WWE goes for. So I get that wrestling companies have like, these like, hey Matt, that they have
Hey.
these like looks, but I'm like, if a person can like wrestle well and then they can make you at least the gimmick is so believable that you're like, well, damn, I kind of want to see what you do, then I feel like there should be exceptions. It shouldn't be like, oh, but you're mid Carter and that's where you stay. Because it's like, well, then okay, I guess like, but
Right.
I like this mid Carter. Like, what if I want to see more from this mid Carter and you're like forcing them in a box? Like, he was really gifted on the mic, for the level of like, oh, he kind of needs to stay like on the witch call. And why Stone Cold was lucky enough to become a main guy eventually, with the Attitude Era. It's just like, I hate that they do that with wrestlers because it's like, well, kind of give them up to kind of see where you can kind of pull around with, like, see what they can do. Like, at least he could wrestle. Like, people go hard about Goldberg being, and I, like, and he couldn't even wrestle, and that annoys me to this day. I was like, like he sat on a WWE Network show and said, "I can't wrestle." Y'all was telling me he was a main guy when he admitted that he could not wrestle. But he's a man. Where? I'm like, he couldn't talk. He couldn't talk in the mic, and then he couldn't wrestle, so he didn't have nothing. But he was a big, tall, bald guy, and y'all was trying to tell me he was main event material. But people like Brian Pillman, who has both skill sets, no, you mid card. Like, really?
It doesn't make sense.
Really? like how hard Daniel Bryan had to fight to become like a main person. Like, even when he was mid card for a while, and then he finally kind of had his just move to take off. And it's like, Daniel Bryan's one of the best wrestlers we have. Like technical wrestlers, and then he's good in the mic. So it's like, give people the opportunity, give people the opportunity to see what they can do. See, but Hogan can't wrestle, so don't get me started with that. Like, Hogan cannot wrestle. I mean, don't give it a heavy rent. We don't want that.
It's like kind of the leg drops, and that's about it.
Don't do that. And clearly, you mentioned, Jericho, and even though Jericho is very questionable right now because his shenanigans, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, even though he did terrible things, they were phenomenal wrestlers. I've always said that. Like, when I first came to WWE, I was kind of annoyed because I'm like, I was always a WWE person. So WCW, I always felt the way, like, ew, y'all. Okay, you're not the main people, but they can wrestle, and they definitely can out wrestle Hulk Hogan and Sting for that matter. so that's the thing, is like with the look thing, is like, well, sometimes let them, even if they're smaller a bit, let them show what they can do. Like, because Chris Benoit, yeah, like, even like I said, most people don't talk about Chris Benoit anymore, but he was a phenomenal wrestler. I was like, if he was still around and he didn't do what he did, I would probably consider him one of my top technical wrestlers because he could wrestle. And I love Eddie Guerrero. He had charisma too, like charisma at his ass. And you saw people loved him. Even now, this many years after his death, people still idolize him and still remember him fondly because of that. So the fact that you can be a smaller guy, and if you know what you're doing, you can do it. Just give them the opportunity. It shouldn't be okay, we gave you a month and that's enough. We're fine. Because but what if you missed out something really great because of that mentality? And sure, it doesn't help that now the fans are like OD fickle, like Daniel Bryan says. They OD. Like, every little thing they complain about. So it's like, all right, can y'all wait a minute? Like, I might complain about people I don't like. Like, I will always complain about Brock Lesnar because I don't like him. I like him outside the ring. He does nice things. But as far as his gimmick in the ring, I do not like his gimmick. So no matter what he does, I'm going to always be like, ew, every time. But that's just a gimmick thing. It's like, this is me. I'm not going to be like super mad at him personally. But outside of my people I just don't like for my reasons, I'm not like, let me see what the person can do in the ring. And then I can go from there. I might like the gimmick. Like, I might like what they're doing. But you don't give people the opportunity. I felt like Brian, unfortunately, like, I felt like because he was like this, but he had to feel like he had to always go an extra step because they were doing stuff like that. That's why I feel like he was smart, because I'm like, most people don't think like that. Like, oh, let me make sure I got my money at least.
Right. You have to give things time to develop. You can't just say, nothing happens overnight. Nothing. Like, you have to give things time to build and give people time to get on it. Because sometimes not everyone's going to be like, oh, right away. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit of time to really love the character. And if they have the talent, you have to just, give them that, time to kind of like show it and get the people on their side.
I hear you, Devik. I was never a Hulk Hogan fan, ever. I never saw a big deal about him. His whole brother gimmick when he was in the NWO, I was like, I do not care at all. Did not care. When every time he comes back to the WWE, and then when the racist thing, just a whole different level for me with him now. But I never really saw a big deal about him. I get that he sold merchandise and he gave money, but it's also like, yeah, this the entertainment aspect. You could be entertaining, but I felt Brian Pillman was one of the people who was both. Like, he could wrestle, but he also was entertaining. It wasn't like he only could wrestle, but he kind of sucked on the mic. So I'm like, I guess. Like, I guess in this case of Brian Pillman can actually be entertaining. And his promos actually made some sense. Because sometimes I would watch the promos from back in the day, and I'm like, what? Like, y'all got on the mic and said this doesn't make any sense, but I guess.
He said nothing. He just yelled the whole time.
I was like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Just yelled the whole time, and everybody's like, yep.
I'm like, what are you even saying right now? Like, I'm trying to understand what you gonna do. What to this wrestler? It just makes no sense. And people hype that up, and I'm like, at least his promos made sense. Like, I was like, okay, Brian, I hear you. Talk
Literally,
your shit.
all the big words you gotta put in that
So,
vocabulary book. Yes, his made sense with all them damn words. He sure did make sense, much more than Hogan.
how did you feel about the like Brian Pillman Jr. speaking? Because I got to see him wrestle. I want to say October last year. I went to the show in Jersey, which was like super deep. With Steven of UPR. He drove us to, like 4 hours to get to this wrestling show. And he was so nice. And I was just like, oh, like you really look like a lot like your dad, but like
Yes.
you're just so nice. Like you're so nice to everybody, like who was talking to him, and like he did his thing. Even though he didn't win, I don't think he won the match. He might have. I don't remember. But it was really nice, and I was like, it was nice that you really were just like last minute, like you know what, I'm a wrestle. Like I'm just gonna wrestle, and to the point where his sister was being like overprotective, big sis. Like I don't want you to wrestle because look what happened to dad. I'm like, okay, so that's me. I'm like, you gonna do what?
Right, like,
no, you're not. You're not doing that. Like.
Just at the dinner table, like, I know you lying. I just know you gotta be lying, not you. But
you're right, but I still just saying that it would be nice to put promos to make sense back then. Like I want to follow along.
I do not agree. Macho Man he was making sense. I would say that Macho Man when he started going, listen, because the cream does rise to the top. Okay, so it did make sense. Don't I love Macho Man. I love me some Macho Man. He made sense to me. Everything he said, I felt that. I was like, you damn right. You damn right.
No, that cream of the crop promo. I was like, okay, I feel you.
He do be making sense. This is true.
No, I just mean in general. Sometimes you're like, there's always these like reels that I see random pop on social media when they'll play like promos from people, and I'm like, so y'all thought this made sense back then? Like, I'm trying to understand how this supposed to be like top 10 promo, and then I hear it, and I'm like, what? What do you mean right now? And I'm like trying to like. So I think that's what it was. Like, that's what it was. Like, some of the stuff back then made no sense, and they didn't wrestle that well. Right. And yeah, people was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I'm like, luckily, wrestlers seem a lot more like able to do a lot of more things now. Let them show it. Give them a chance to show it. So I did, but yeah, I actually did like both the Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man because like my grandma loved them. Because they were so over the top that she was always like, watch it. That's how I like with them at least met how introduced to them before Shawn Michaels, because that was big.
Right. Exactly. But in terms of Brian Pillman Jr., I loved, I mean, obviously I didn't love what his story that he said, that's, it's heartbreaking. No child should ever have to go through that. But just seeing how he's, grown from it and just hearing him talk, I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I'm excited. Like, I feel like that this kind of made me want to root for him more than before I watched this. Like, I want him to get everything that he wants out of this business. Like, that's how this episode made me feel, and I'm glad that I saw it. So I'm a ready-made fan for him. I want him to succeed. I want him to, do amazing things. I really do. But Macho.
I think one of the things that hurt me, Brian was saying that Melody's new husband, his stepdad, was like training the dogs to hurt him, and I'm like,
that's just sick.
Like, I feel like those are situations when ACS needs to be involved, and I get that a lot of people don't like that, but I'm like, in that type of situation where he was getting abused by an animal and stuff, nobody got involved to help them. Like, it shouldn't have been Linda having to step in. And yes, I get that that's her the nieces and nephews and all, but it's like, come on, because he already lost the parents and he already lost,
so much.
Hey, Willie.
Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. I just wanted to say, you guys are doing an awesome job on the show. I know I was supposed to be on here, but I'm at a Mother's Day function. So to the UPR universe, I wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that's watching. Katrina, Happy Mother's Day. I don't think our new host is a mother, so I'm not going to tell her Happy Mother's Day. I don't know, but if you are, Happy Mother's Day.
Not yet.
Brian Pillman was the fucking first unfriended lunatic. So I just wanted to say, look, you girls rocking. Y'all rocking the show. I know I was supposed to be on here with y'all. I'm at a Mother's Day function. So just wanted to tell y'all, man, UPR rock, man. UPR girls rock. Proud of y'all. I know Chris gonna cuss me out later. Leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I got to beg or plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud to beg, but please don't leave me, girl. But anyway, all right, y'all go ahead and get back to Brian Pillman. Love y'all, man. UPR, the women hold it down. Like I said, I just wanted to tell y'all, I'm so proud of y'all. Sorry, I was supposed to be here in the beginning, and I wasn't. Like I said, we got a whole Mother's Day function. Mother's Day.
Well, enjoy your party.
Sad. Girl. But anyway, like I said, I didn't want to interrupt the show. Just want to tell y'all, thank y'all, man. Y'all doing an awesome job. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. And like I said, Brian Pillman, he pimped the whole industry. He pimped WCW and WWF. They didn't know what they was gonna do with him and ECW. He was the first lunatic friend. First guy to pull a gun out on national TV too, loaded. But y'all have a good show. And Steamer Willie Beeman, I'm out.
Bye. That was a cute little entrance right there. You like that?
Yeah,
I didn't like that.
I did feel a way about the interview, honestly. I felt really, what's the word I want to use? I feel like it was a mix of like opportunists, because I would have told them no personally. There's no way my spouse, even if we were like going through a divorce, because they were, you know, supposedly not in a good space when he passed away. Even so, I feel like I'm grieving. I don't have time to be sitting here and doing an interview for your show.
Right.
When you guys didn't even believe at first that the person actually died. And then allude that it was a drug problem.
Right.
So it's like you put her, and then you kind of felt like you put her on the spot. And while she was answering it, I would have been like, but that's not what we agreed to. So
exactly,
you must don't want this interview. Because I'm like, not only does this look like Brian, it just kind of tainted him a bit by saying, well, was it because he was doing these things? But it's like, that's what the kids saw as well. And again, they already had like a lot of trauma, you know, with the situation involved with Brian, and, you know, the first mom and the new mom. And then, you know, Melanie was already like on her way out the door with somebody else. So it's like, that's a lot of transitioning for children to have to take in anyway.
Right.
So to have her then come, you know, a few days after he passed to be like, oh, let's do this interview. And it's, oh, well, was he doing like these type of, and I'm like, wait, but why did you even, I would have went off on camera and they would have to take me off. Like they would have to be into the interview like right after that.
Script. I'm going to go off script.
Exactly.
We're going to be off the script together and we'll see where we go.
Because I would have been offended. Like, I thought we agreed that let's not do this. Why are we doing this? And now I'm sitting here looking like I was the wife that was just letting him have all types of like, and I'm sure she was, because clearly she was a drug user.
Yes.
But come on, I just felt like that wasn't appropriate right after he passed away, especially because it was the same thing that killed his own dad. Right. You know, that's what it was, the thing that killed his dad. I'm like, you know, that's hereditary stuff sometimes, unfortunately.
Right.
Like, I'm sure he thought he was going to come to the show, and he didn't come to the show. Like, I'm sure he didn't think that was going to be the way he died, alone in a hotel room.
Right.
And I didn't like that how the other family members found out either. I just felt like there's a way to do stuff, and that's not it. I don't know. I just felt I felt the way about that interview. Mr. Man, again, he does shady stuff, so I felt it was shady of him as well.
Right. It was tasteless. It felt very tasteless. It shouldn't have happened. I think it was Jim Cornette. What he said, he should have signed a $100,000 check and sent it to her, and that's that. That interview should never have happened. No.
Yeah, and like I did see this with before this episode, like a few months ago, where Brian Pillman was on some show, and he was talking about WWE was like the wrestlers. He was allowing the wrestlers to do other shows to get money for the family. and then we never saw any of the money. So that I did know before the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and that bothered me because I'm like, these are your kids too, like.
Right.
And then, of course, they were saying that last one might have not even been Brian Pillman, as they implied that he wasn't the dad. And it was like, so you already got all of this drama swirling around, and you're sitting here doing this stuff for the stepfather when you have all these children to take care of. Like,
right.
You're not gonna, you're just not gonna take care of the kids. Like, that bothered me. I was like, Vince McMahon about him and you doing other shows. Like,
right.
You don't really care for that. So if he's allowing, wrestlers to send money to help, raise money for the kids to kind of be okay for a while, and then you're taking money and doing God knows what and doing drugs so those kids who are struggling, like they didn't know where food was, like that. But and this is, again, I heard this originally before Dark Side of the Ring. So Brian Pillman was discussing it, and I'm just like, well, I get that he's in a better place with her, and he did say that at the end of the episode that they were in a better space, and that him talking to her helped with a lot of his anger about it, and I totally get that, and I'm all for making amends if you can make amends, but it just, like, as a mom, that bothered me because I'm like, there's no way, like, somebody is being this, like, generous, and I'm just like, you know what, kids, let me go get myself all this stuff. You guys would be okay. Like, that's the vibe I got from that, and I hated it because I'm like, they had a lot of trauma. That's a lot of trauma. I'm honestly surprised they all not on drugs. Something, honestly,
right,
because of all of that. It was just so much trauma, and I just, you don't do that to children. You don't. I just feel like, and you're like biologically the mom to some of these kids, and you're even doing this to the ones you have.
Right. No, definitely. It's just a lot for, like, as I said earlier, I feel like that's a lot of stuff to go through in one lifetime.
I agree, Derek.
That's just, it's heartbreaking. And I agree as well, Derek. I agree with that. It's sad. It's really sad that things happen that way. And it's sad how the whole thing with, like, the pain medication and stuff, like, how they feel like they have to rely on it, that's why I kind of get happy with, people get mad at WWE when they don't let certain people wrestle, because they'll be like, well, I went to this doctor, and they said this, but WWE is still like, I don't know. I would take that over them having someone wrestle who maybe they feel mentally they're in the right physical shape, but maybe they're not. I respect that,
Yeah, like, Vince McMahon and WWE has done some questionable things over the years. You kind of have to side eye, like, this is not the choice. But I do like people like to mention, how AEW allows that. And I'm like, but then the person gets hurt. And so the person, I want to see a show that I paid to see this wrestler, now the wrestler's not there because they hurt. So now I'm mad. So I'm like, this is who I paid to see. So I do get, like, do WWE need to change certain practices with their wrestlers? Of course they do. Should somebody be making more money when you find out the differences of someone that pays? And I'm like, but that's a bit extreme. Well, before COVID, when you guys was, like, traveling most of the year and not seeing family, but you wasn't getting paid that amount. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's a bit shady. WWE, you could do a little better and make sure, that certain things is, like, good, because certain wrestlers Vince McMahon will go back for, like Shawn Michaels. He went to bat for him when Shawn Michaels had his issues, and he was like, I'll pay you and everything. And I'm like, everybody don't get that lucky to have somebody do all of that. Like, nobody's boss gonna be like, I'll pay you to rest, like, or to go to therapy, whatever it is you
go
to do.
Home, please.
So some cases, but, like, in situations with Brian Pillman, like, the fact that it sucked that his last matches before his death, where everybody was noticing that you're not the person you were before. And I get a part of it was, like, he was depressed that, I can never wrestle again. And that's always my issue when you see wrestlers, because they devote so much time in their life to it, that when they can't have it anymore, how it affects them. And other athletes as well, when they can't play football no more, they can't play basketball, they don't know what to do with themselves. And I'm like, that's kind of why I'm okay with, like, the wrestlers gaming and stuff. And I'm like, well, it might seem dumb and you might not want the game, but they look happy, so at least, like, if they finish wrestling something, well, they're doing something that won't keep them from, like, committed suicide or something. Like, you have to look at it like, unfortunately, wrestlers are one of the group of people that they die really young. Like, the amount of people that died in general in wrestling is insane, and they're always very young. It's not like, just like, you shouldn't be dying 40, 30, 20 something. That's insane. So for me, it's just like, you can tell, and I did, and that bothered me too. Like, everybody was like, you can tell he wasn't the person, And I knew that had to hurt him. And then he wasn't even being with his children because he was like depressed about that. Like, oh, I'm not able to wrestle. And as far as what you said, Derek, about the new husband, yeah, that is what I was saying, that ACS, it shouldn't have been go to Linda to even help out like to that extent where she took them, because the mom is like, these are your kids. Like, there's no way some new husband of mine is going to be throwing my kid something I bought for my kid, because you must want to get like, all right, I'll call the cops on you myself. Like, you're dead to my kids.
Right.
Like the whole mom mode that, I didn't believe existed until it became a mom, is like, you get real crazy about your kids. That's true. Like, I would fight anybody, and I will, like, I'm a tiny person. I'll be like, I will burn the school down. I will burn this. Like, y'all don't do that. Like, so the fact that she didn't have that to do that for them, and the husband was able to do what he did. It's just like, you really didn't give a shit about your kids, and like, might be, like I said, she probably got to a place where, again, she must have been apologetic because they're in a good space now. But it's just like, why did he have to go through that when he wasn't talking to you as an adult? Like, he just started talking to you again. Like, because whatever you was doing with your new husband, like, your new husband was this amazing that you was just like, fuck the kids. And then mind you, you're the reason why the other kids got taken away from the actual mom.
Right.
So you put that burden on yourself being petty, and now you're just like, well, fuck you all, because that's the vibe I got from that. And why she was very honest about it, it's still just like, well, this sucks though, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I get that you're honest, but it sucks. Like, what you did to people, like children who needed you, especially the ones you gave birth to. So, I do, like, I think I saw on Twitter somebody was like, Brian Pillman Jr. should be like the baby face after this, and I kind of agree. Yeah. I feel like if this didn't build him up as a baby face, like y'all better, like, he's on AEW and stuff, y'all better make him be the biggest baby face we ever seen, because I really just want him to do good things. I that's literally how I felt, like what you were saying earlier, Shayna, where you just like, I just want him to have, like, yo, seriously, he just needs all the good things this way, and just let him do well, and let him, God forbid, that doesn't trickle down to him too, with regards to the thing that killed his father and grandfather. Exactly. Like, just you be healthy and you be well and you be happy and you just get to thrive in the career that your dad wanted to be great in.
Right. That's how I feel. I'm not playing. I'm at the point where I'm not playing about him. I see anybody booing him, I'm cooking off on you. You better not. I don't want to see it. Not in front of me. You can.
That's literally how I felt. It's like, I got to see him in person before all of this, and he was like really nice, and he was good. But now I'm like, yeah, if y'all don't push him properly and market him as a baby face, because people, I wasn't the only, we weren't the only ones feeling bad. I was watching, people was like, yo, this is crazy. And I'm like, oh, so it's not just me getting emotional right now, because I'm like, what is this? Like, your own kid, like that, but like, I was hurt. Like, I've cried a couple of times watching Dark Side of the Ring episodes. Where I was sad. And I'm like, yo, this had me, like, I was sad. And why he passed, because just listen to the kids talk, and it's just like, well, damn. And when Linda was talking, you're like, well, like, you just felt so bad. And I'm just like, yo, we just need him. Just give him all the good things, universe. Like, he had enough. I feel like he had enough of the bad. We can give him some good now, universe. Like,
exactly.
I feel like he's just really successful, and he gets to have a nice long life, and he has a really successful career, because it sucked. I was sympathetic. Okay, I think the last time I cried over a Dark Side of the Ring episode might have been, it might have been a Chris Benoit one, and I think mostly for Nancy and for Eddie, because like the whole Eddie scenario, I love Eddie. I love Eddie Guerrero, so I was sad when it first happened. I was a mess.
Yeah.
So, like sometimes I'm like, oh, this is fucked up. Like, I'll be like, this is fucked up, but like the cry, I was like, oh no, and I'm a crier, but I was crying. I was like, yo, this is not even right. Like, why all these bad things? So I do want AEW to do him well.
Yes, absolutely.
Or if he ends up somewhere else, or whatever the case may be, because you don't know, but like wherever, just
thrive.
Right now is the perfect time to market him as a babyface. Like, you want to go heel in like a few months, fine. But right now, market him as a babyface. He has people supporting it. Awesome.
This is the perfect time. It's the perfect time. But I also just, I mean, and not even just everything, sympathizing with everything he's went through. He has a good look. It's not like we giving you rocks to sell here. Okay, the guy looks the part. I think, if they mess up with him, it's just, I don't know what more I can do. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, and it's not like, okay, he's not his dad. Like his dad was gifted in those like where he was just like badass. He's really like he gives me more of like good guy vibes, but
right,
like you get the whole old school mullet thing happening. Just
right,
work with it. Like work with it. I feel like he's gonna have people right now. He's gonna have people behind him, and you can kind of make some. You can make some money off of it.
right,
And I just like I really appreciated that his aunt was really like holding it down. Like she was just like,
right,
this is what we got to do. And again, everybody's not lucky enough to have family that always would just be like, "But I got you," when all of that is happening.
right.
So, and I think he recently tweeted about her mother. And he was like, "You was like my
Did
mom." And I was
I
like,
saw this
you say
morning?
it,
Yeah,
Brian? Like, you say it. He's like, the one who treated him like a mom. And I'm like,
my heart, my heart. But I mean, I just, I just really want him to succeed, and I think that he will. I think, and he's still so in the early stages of himself. He hasn't fully even tapped into what is his niche yet, like what he is yet. So he's still so early, and I already see the potential. So
yep. Do you have any like? I know one of this like because we're supposed to be doing like all the episodes for this season. Do you have any like thoughts of like the go on? Because I think that whole plane ride for hell, I'm actually really interested to see.
yes, oh my god,
And like
yes.
the story behind that plane ride had always been like, yo, y'all was wild. Like
I'm like,
y'all was I'm
imagine
actually
sitting
really
down
interested in
and
that episode.
letting the flight happen. Stay in your seat. Where was the pilot? Somebody tell me sit down. Y'all have been wrestling at all this stuff. Sit down.
The whole flight was so wild, and I'm like, I really just need to know, like the people involved. I'm guessing they're gonna have people that was there or whatever. I just need to know because I'm like, when I first heard this story, I was like, so what? Y'all like to the point where Mr. Man was like, now we can't do this anymore. Like y'all was that wild that Mr. Man had to put some limits on you guys. Like I was like, was the show that stressful that y'all was just like, you know what, guys, it's fine. Like we're gonna live it up right now. Was the show that stressful? Because it was what so that's like one episode I'm actually like really excited to see because I'm like I just want to know what y'all was thinking about.
I'm on the same wavelength because I really want to know. I'm like, well, what is going on?
Listen, Derek, I can go on a whole rant about AEW, but I don't want to do that. I don't want the
Let's
angry
not.
to get.
You always get me started. You get me started.
Because people always be arguing with you on Twitter, and I'm like, y'all be doing the most. Like,
We crack my knuckles. Don't you?
people be doing the most with you on Twitter about the. I'm like, if y'all don't calm down, like it is not that deep that y'all writing theses about somebody's opinion. Calm down.
Think pieces. I'm like, shut up.
Like, and I feel like they should. I hope they push him, but we also know that they do shenanigans all the time. They really do, and then I get irritated, and that's why I cannot watch them because though a part of it is mostly the fans. The fans really irk my soul.
Yeah.
And I feel like if y'all wasn't this annoying, I might be more inclined to want to watch. But y'all do the most, and I'm just like, no, I'm good on that. I want them to push him, but you know how they are about their faves. And I didn't want to rant on that because I don't want that, on a Sunday. You don't need me rant like that on the Lord's Day. So
Mother's Day,
you don't need to do that.
Not on Mother's Day. Not on Mother's Day. But all around, I thought this was a really great, insightful, episode, and it definitely pulled at my heart, and I'm grateful that these people sat down to tell this story and relive it. That's another thing, just having just to have to relive that, I'm grateful that they felt that, but I feel really sad that they even had to go through it.
Yeah. I mean, to open up a new season, it was a good episode. Like, I'm not really know how. Like I said, I do want to see the plane ride episode because I reading the story before. I was like, yo, that was wild. But I felt like if you're opening a new season, especially with how we got season 2, and they had some like heavy ones in season 2. That I'm saying, all right, guys, this was smart to open up with somebody who, like, I knew stuff about him, but I didn't know all of that about Brian. Like, I knew some stuff,
Right.
but I didn't know that amount of detail. So I was
Right.
appreciative of that. And it made sense why they had to pay that like 2 hours long. And it was like, okay, you kind of have to explain that he had a lot going on while he was wrestling. And so I appreciated that. I really did. I watched 2 out of 3. I have not watched the Roddy Piper one, but I did watch Stone Cold and I watched Macho Man. And I have
haven't had a chance. I haven't had a chance yet, but it's something I'm gonna get around to probably this week.
I felt like they kind of did Macho Man dirty, but
yes,
I didn't like the way his story was told. It seemed too negative, and
right.
I love Stone Cold. I do, but we're not gonna act like Stone Cold don't have some skeletons because we know he does. And I felt like it was a lot. They were a lot nicer about the way they told Stone Cold's story than the way they told Macho Man. And Macho Man's not here, so it's like,
right.
Is this the way to kind of, I don't know, guys. Like, so I don't know. I feel like because WWE is involved, that they kind of had more say so of how things are portrayed. I didn't like that, but we'll see what they say about Booker T. Like, Booker T be irking me sometimes with the stuff he be saying. So,
right.
I guess, like, I guess I'll watch his episodes. Sometimes he irritates the hell out of me. Like, he irritates the hell out of me sometimes with the shenanigans he be talking about, and I'm like, all right, Booker T.
Same. Honestly, very much
Okay.
same.
You just need to go back to whatever you was doing before Twitter and just stop.
Right.
Nobody asked you.
Nobody. Stay out of women's business is what it means.
Yo, seriously, stop worrying about the women because you be always talking shenanigans.
Right.
When you talking about the women, and I hate that. I'm like, you be praising the men for the same thing. You want to make it make sense, okay?
Exactly. Tell it.
It makes some sense, Booker T. But I guess I have to catch up with the Roddy one because I haven't watched that one yet. But I did watch 2 of those. I still think I prefer Dark Side of the Ring because it's more like gritty.
Definitely gritty, super gritty. A lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Stone Cold's like issues. I knew of a lot of his because I read his book as well. When the book came out some years ago, I read all of like every wrestler's book just to read them, and he he was no angel, and I felt like AEW like they didn't go push as they kind of lost it a bit. It wasn't the same like how they probably would have. Dark Side would have like, okay, so he did this in this year. And let's have a friend tell you how this happened, and you see the friend. Like that is Dark Side of the Ring. They'll tell you the story a little bit, have the narrator,
right.
see it in a way, and then you have the person who was there, like, okay, so this happened. And then you're like, well, damn, like I feel like they glossed it over a bit with Stone Cold's episode. It didn't seem like Macho Man's was like, well, damn, they had to keep like, okay, this man negative. Like, okay, we know. Like, and I think that was
did they have Hulk Hogan speak for his? For Macho?
I think so. Don't give me a lie.
Because I just feel like that's so disrespectful. You know he did not like that man. Come on now. He wrote songs and all that talking about how he didn't like this man. Why would you have this man sitting up here talking about this man? That's so disrespectful.
Oh man, listen. This is how I knew it was WWE was involved. They was doing shenanigans. Like you could tell.
Like,
because I know people with the Twitter, they was like, so we're gonna just put him on here like we didn't know. And I'm like, that's true. It was very clear he didn't like him. Like we all do this.
Who didn't know? Who didn't know? Who? So right now, who didn't know? Everybody did. Now, why would you have this man sitting here? And why would he agree to it? But you know he would.
Yeah, he got to get himself in the public eye and everything. So, guess he didn't get the reaction for WrestleMania with Titus. So let's put him on 80. Let's put him on 80 because he didn't get the reaction we wanted at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was giggling. I couldn't help but giggle a little bit.
People knew. I was like, look at the audience agreeing. They knew.
Right.
I was like, thank you, Florida, because sometimes you guys, Chris might not like that I said this, but sometimes Floridans with the shenanigans down there. So
right, you can't be sure. Sometimes you just can't be sure.
I know you're gonna hear this going like, what do you mean? Since he has got something negative to say about New York City, but Florida.
He's writing the message right now as we speak. Okay.
Okay, he be acting like Floridans don't be with the shenanigans. Like, just saying.
Yeah, but I'm excited to see these episodes unfold and get these more in depth stories. I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I don't believe he was lying. I feel that, like, in my heart, he was lying about that. Macho Man can't agree or disagree. So
right. So I'm gonna just have to go.
He was lying. I
said.
truly feel he was lying about that.
That's
Because
what we going with.
he really, how can we tell Hogan? We can't ask him. We can't go to the dude.
Then it didn't happen.
I don't believe that. I'm sorry. No. Like, if he adamantly, and it's okay to not like people and just cut them off. It is fine. We don't always gonna be kumbaya and making things up. I'm okay if somebody does something so foul to you that you know, we good. We don't need to talk ever again. And I totally support that. So I feel like Macho Man was worrying about him when he passed. And Hulk Hogan wanted to make himself feel important. Like, we were friends. Yeah, sure. You know, like, people pass away, and then you have this one person that we've never seen before. It's like, oh my God, he was like my brother. You're like, well, who the F are you? I never seen you before. Right. This is your brother. We've never seen you. Like, nobody's seen you before. Stop.
Those are one of his Spotify songs of him talking crap. Did you talk about him? I don't think he liked you, man. I didn't think he liked you. I don't know. What mutual?
It's really the vibes. Like, I'm Hulk Hogan. Like, he was lying. Oh, I knew Eric Bishop was lying. He was too busy worrying about looking nice on his motorcycle when they showed his little clip, slow motion clip, when he came in his white shirt. I was like, stop, Eric. This is not a magazine shoot.
I was like, all right. You just don't want to admit that somebody got one over.
This is not a magazine shoot, okay? Right, man died, and you sit here trying to be cute with your little motorcycle. Stop. I was irritated by that. I was like, nobody asked you for the background in the desert with a motorcycle. We didn't ask for that.
He said it was my time to shine.
That was it. Nobody asked for that. That's shenanigans.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I definitely, yes, Macho Man, the realest.
I like Macho Man. I did.
I don't play about Macho Man. I love that man. Man was talented. What? Stop. Don't get me started though. Oh man, but yeah, this was a great episode. I'm glad I saw it. You know, I'm glad I got to hear them tell this story. I really am.
Yeah, same. So do we need to plug anything? I don't know. Chris just left us in the wind.
Just watch everything on this channel. Everything. Okay,
it's Monday and it is Monday Night Raw.
Especially the Tuesday show.
And yes, Kay is on NXT. I know that with Ron. And then I think Wednesday is AEW, I guess. And then I know Friday is SmackDown. And then I believe the pay-per-view is this Sunday, right? The WrestleMania Backlash?
It is.
So I'm quite sure that there will be something happening with UPR after WrestleMania Backlash. And I heard you are the new UPR champion. So, you know, you see if you stay champion, because Chris didn't need it. Chris is fine. He didn't need it. So I'm going to be talking bad stuff in my inbox very soon. But he didn't need the championship. He was annoying about that when I was there. So you hold on to that championship and just keep rubbing it in his face about how he lost. It's fine. It's fine. But yes, guys, you know, UPR has a lot of stuff. I know they have the entertainment channel too. And like, you guys just watch it, as I am not part of, you know, all of this anymore. So I'm just winging it right now.
But just doing Dark Side of the Ring, and we'll be here having the same vibe.
We will be the next, what is it? I think Nick Gage is the next one, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in the indie circuit, especially like New York, New Jersey, Nick Gage is always doing some wild, crazy ass shit at indie shows. Because I think the last time I seen him, he made the guy like ambulance king, and I was like, wait, pause. Like, this man really needed the ambulance. Like, he hurt him bad enough that the guy kind of had to stop the match because he hurt the guy so bad, and then the ambulance had to come during the show. He was in Brooklyn, so I was just like, oh, I mean, I guess, Nick. I mean, I didn't know how to react to that because I was just like, oh, you really hurt the guy.
So you just do what you do, sir.
So if you know who Nick Gage is, you know, I'm sure, I don't know if he'll be crazier than New Jack's episode, because, you know, New Jack was crazy. Yeah, you know, Chris do a lot of bragging, talking about his like excellence and other shenanigans. And since he's not here right now, I'm talking my shit. I mean, I'll talk to him personally because he knows this. Shenanigans. Like, we keep talking about he didn't play women, and yet he knows quite a few women he's never played. I'm one of them. He's never played me the video game, so he can't
Play
play
me in Fortnite. I got you. Okay.
So he need to play some people and then talk that. And he, you know, I'm quite sure he's gonna send me like 5 messages after he sees this, and that's fine. Chris already knows how I am. I'm ready. I'm ready for the shenanigans. He knows this.
But, you know, definitely, you know, I'm happy, you know, for everyone that, you know, popped in to see us, you know, talk about this episode. And, you know,
especially you, Derek. You was definitely chatting with us. Thank you.
You a real one, Derek.
Definitely. So I guess we'll confirm sometime in the next episode. We're gonna do the next episode. Since the pay-per-view is next Sunday, I don't think it would be wise to do both. That seems a bit excessive.
Yeah, no. So
we're figuring that out. But you know, it was great. Thank you guys for joining us on Mother's Day, on the Sunday, on the Lord's Day. Thank you guys for joining us. And we appreciate you guys, and much love, guys.